Hello and welcome back to Jack's Labs. Today we have the Superball Lab, but first let's get into the key terms and vocabulary. First, we're going to go over some overview from the last lab. Firstly, with monomers. A monomer is a molecule that can be bonded to other identical molecules and forms polymers. And a polymer is a substance with a molecular structure consisting primarily or entirely of similar units bonded together, or those monomers. Now for the new terms. Firstly, with elastic potential energy. Elastic potential energy is energy stored because of applying force to deform an elastic object. Next is the coefficient of restitution, which is the ratio of the relative velocity of separation after collision to the relative velocity of approach before collision, otherwise known as the final velocity divided by the initial velocity. And finally, organosilicon oxide polymer uses are caulks or sealant, adhesives, agriculture, and coatings. Now that we've covered the vocab, let's get into the instructions for the lab. First, you're going to gather the proper materials. These include borax powder, a 120 milliliter Elmer's white glue, baking soda, cornstarch, a water source, spoon, measuring cup, plastic cups or paper bowls, either work, a teaspoon and tablespoon measuring tool, a ruler, a camera to observe the height of the bounce, and then airtight containers. I used plastic bags or Ziploc bags. For this experiment, the independent variable is the type of binding agent, whether it's borax, baking soda, or cornstarch, and the dependent variable is going to be the bounce height of our super ball. To form our first super ball, you're going to pour 2 tablespoons of glue into the container of your choice. I used paper bowls. Next, you're going to add the half teaspoon of borax powder into the glue and stir that up real good. As you're stirring, the glue should start to clump with the borax and form a ball-like structure. Next, what I did is I put the ball underneath water so I could roll it out and make it circular and to get rid of all of the excess. And that's it for that first ball. You just put that in a Ziploc bag and you're done with the borax ball. For the next 2 balls, they're going to be similar to what we did with the borax, except we're going to be using different binding materials and maybe some different quantities. For this next ball, we're going to put 3 tablespoons of glue into the container of your choice and then add 2 teaspoons of water as well. Then you're going to add the binding agent, which is 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and then you're going to do the same stirring and ball creation. And finally, the third ball, you're going to put 2 tablespoons of cornstarch into the container and then add 1/8 cup of water and then stir that with a spoon. Except for this ball, do not put this one underneath water because we don't want too much water getting in onto the cornstarch. You're going to let each of these super balls sit for at least 24 hours to give them time to set. Now they have all 3 super balls, let's get into the actual experiment. You're going to set up a ruler upright and make sure your camera is looking straight at your ruler. Your ruler has to be at least a foot tall so you know where to drop from. Then you're going to take the ball out of the bag and you're going to place it above at the 1 foot mark, and then you're going to drop it and measure how high it bounces. This experiment is really, really simple. You're going to get different bounce heights with each of the binding agents. And yeah, once you do that, the experiment is complete, and you now can see which of these binding agents with the glue or with the water bounces the highest. I found some really interesting results with the experiment, and so can you now that you've watched the lab. Thank you guys for watching, and see you guys in the next lab.